Hello and welcome back to the third episode of Into the Viya Verse. This time it's all about SAS Viya 2023.03. Grab a cup of coffee and let's dive in. Okay, so this time we will start off in SAS Model Studio, where the gradient boosting node has received an update. You could previously add the perform light GBM option, and now it has also added the ability to perform auto tuning by just enabling it through this button. This is awesome to help you tune your models more easily and get better results in the end. There has also been an enhancement to the neural network. You can now register your models directly from Model Studio as A stores in the SAS Model Manager. So let's go there. The A store, of course, has the advantage of being a very condensed format to serve your models up and also make use of the proc A store, which you can then more easily interact with your models. Here you can see an example for a neural network with the A store metadata included inside of your metadata. The Model Manager and also SAS Intelligent Decisioning has also received an update for the Soccer SAS Container Runtime engine for your model publishing. You can now connect Postgres databases to these containers to make use of the query node more easily or to store your results in those databases. Also, which we will touch on in a later part of the video, there has now been released an example on how to publish these containers to OpenShift clusters as well. Let's jump over to SAS Studio, where we also see a couple of new enhancements. First up, we will start off with new data connections that have been made available. So let's click the connection node here. And let's scroll all the way to the bottom. There, first off, has been added SAS access to single store. We previously had the access for CAS, the data connector. Now we also have the SAS access engine for single store. You, of course, can also write libname statements if you want to. And then the very big one this month is up at the top. And that's the SAS Cloud Data Exchange Engine. I hope there will be a blog post soon that I can link you to dive deeper on this topic, but what it basically does is to more easily and conveniently allows you to connect from your cloud to your on-prem databases in a secure and fast way. This will be very popular in the future. Also, we see an enhancement to the Parquet engine, which now supports null data types, BSON column types, and a JSON column type, which will be great to further integrate with the Parquet ecosystem. And then we, of course, have a new step that has been made available in the SAS steps. If we go to the transform data, we can now rank data. So as always, let's go to SAS help and pull in the cars dataset. We will connect it to the rank data step. We can select our columns to rank by. Let's say we want to rank by cylinders and horsepower. We can also add additional rank by columns. Let's do this by selecting the make. We have additional options here to change the ranking method to quantiles, for example. You can choose a different method on how things should be ranked if the values are tied. And you can change the orientation of the ranks. And finally, in the output, you can specify how these ranked variables should appear in your output and if your data should be printed to the SAS results. So let's run this node and make use of the implicit table creation, which will default to the work library. Let's take a look at our newly created table. where we now can see our ranks that have been created for us. Very helpful, makes this much easier, much more convenient to use within a flow. Next up, we have an enhancement to the query node, and let's just make use of the table we have already created. Let's add a query to the step. Let's just take everything with us. And now if we add an output table to this query, we of course have to specify a name and where to store this. And then you see this additional enhancement underneath. We can either create a physical table, which has been the default for all the time, and you can also specify to create a view. So now let's run this. And now we have not created a physical table, but rather a view of this data set. And if we look at properties, you can see it's of the type view. And of course, the row count is then unknown until you open or interact with this view directly. Very nice, will save some space in between steps. We also see an enhancement to the SAS Custom Step Designer, my favorite utility, where in the input table, you can now specify a default library and default table, which will be honored, so you can make useful examples readily available for your users within your custom step. And if this is a custom step that has a required input, you can now also make this read-only so that your users can't change that input on runtime. And if you want to, you can also hide that information from your users. What does this look like? In this flow, I have prepared a very simple custom step, which, as you can see, it doesn't have any additional information. It only displays, hey, this takes as an input the SAS help cars table. And you can see I can still connect something to this. So let's pull in another table and let's connect it to the step. And now it specifies the results table as an input. Now let's go back to the custom step designer. Let's make this control read only and save it. So now when we head back to our flow, we get a notification that the step has been updated. So let's refresh it. And now you can see the connection between the results and the custom step has been destroyed. You don't have the ability to connect an input anymore. And you see the SAS help cars information on top here. Very useful still to inform your user what goes into the step. And then finally, you can hide even that information if you want to, or if it's not relevant to your users, so that now my step doesn't say anything, but if I run it, it will still run successfully and it will do what I specified it to do, which was just to print the cars dataset to the results tab. So this is very helpful if you're building complex or example-based custom steps for your users. Let's now jump into highlight articles and custom steps that have been released over the last month. For custom steps, we have only one this month, which builds on top of the Git integration, which we covered last time. This step collects stage, commit, pull, and push changes into one custom step that you can pull into your repository or into your flows to manage your Git repositories for you. And then for community articles and other things around SAS Viya, I want to highlight this example for publishing container images to OpenShift environments. This has been available since Viya 2022.12 release, but now this example has been published, which you can follow to publish your SAS container runtime images directly to OpenShift. Then a great article on how to troubleshoot SAS visual data mining and machine learning projects if you run into any issues. this is an amazing blog post that really dives deep on what you can do to further investigate what went wrong if something goes wrong. And then finally, I want to highlight my own website where I put in a new sub page into the Viya Verse, which will also collect all the information I talk about in textual form if you want to have it even more easily consumable. That's it for this month's SAS Viya update. See you next week. See you next month in the Viya Verse. Bye bye.